He left his wallet on the counter. A simple mistake, or so I thought. I paid for his coffee, smiled, and walked away. But the next day, the same man showed up again. Not as a stranger this time, but as my new boss. And when he bought my cafe, I realized this wasn't about coffee anymore. It was about power, secrets, and the past neither of us could escape. Subscribe to Mafia Hidden Diary, more dramatic stories like this one. The rain hit the cafe windows like tiny drum beats. I wiped the counter for the 5th time that hour, pretending business was better than it was. The espresso machine hissed behind me, loud, tired, like me. Another slow morning? Clara asked from the back, her voice carrying that tired humor we both used to survive. Dead slow, I said, glancing at the empty tables. At this rate, the coffee will expire before anyone drinks it. She laughed softly. Maybe the weather will send someone in? London rain always drags in lost souls. The doorbell chimed right then, as if she'd summoned one. A tall man stepped inside, shaking water from his dark coat. His shoes were polished, his shirt crisp, but his eyes unfocused, like he was somewhere else entirely. He looked like he belonged to another world, the kind that didn't stop for broken machines and unpaid bills. He approached the counter, pulling out his phone. "Black coffee," he said. His voice was low, confident, almost cold. "Sure," I said, reaching for a cup. "Rough day?" He didn't answer at first. Just stared at the rain beyond the window. "You could say that." I poured the coffee and set it down. "That'll be £3.50. He reached into his coat, frowned, then patted his other pocket. His jaw tightened. "Damn, I left my wallet," I almost smiled. "Don't worry about it." His eyes flicked up, sharp and searching. "I'll come back. It's fine," I said, waving him off. "Call it a rainy day special." He hesitated, studying me like I'd broken a rule he lived by. "You don't even know my name." "Don't need to," I said. "It's just coffee." He gave a short, humorless laugh, then took the cup. "You're different. Is that good or bad?" "Ask me tomorrow," he said, and walked out into the storm. I stood there, half amused, half uneasy. Clara peeked from the kitchen. "Handsome stranger." "Arrogant one," I said. "Forgot his wallet." "Typical." "Maybe he'll come back with flowers." "Or a lawsuit," I muttered, but part of me hoped she was right. The day dragged on. I cleaned, counted, pretended not to notice the empty till. By closing time, my hands smelled of coffee grounds and regret. As I flipped chairs onto tables, something caught my eye, a small white card on the floor near the counter. I bent to pick it up. Vale Holdings, Property and Investments, and beneath the name, Ethan Vale. The name rang somewhere in my memory, but faintly, like a song I couldn't place. I turned the card over. Nothing but a clean surface and a phone number. "Clara," I called. She came out drying her hands. "What's that?" "The guy's card. He must have dropped it." She leaned closer. "Vale Holdings? Sounds rich." "Rich enough to buy a new wallet," I said, but my voice was softer now. Something about his name made my chest tighten. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just weird day." When she left, I locked up alone. The city outside was quiet, the streets slick with reflections of neon signs. I sat by the window, his card turning between my fingers. Who forgets their wallet but leaves their business card? I told myself it was nothing. A coincidence. But a part of me, the part that had learned to distrust luck, didn't believe in coincidences anymore. The next morning came too fast. I opened early, half expecting the man to return. He didn't. By noon, I'd convinced myself he'd never come back. Then, as I reached to change the open sign to closed for lunch, the bell chimed again. I looked up, and there he was. Dry this time, composed, that same unreadable expression in his eyes. "You again," I said. "Me again," he replied, setting his wallet on the counter. "Told you I'd come back." "You didn't have to. I wanted to." He slid a 10-pound note toward me. "For yesterday," I took it slowly. "That's too much," he smiled, faintly, but real. "Keep the change." "Generous of you. I try," he said. "Do you always help strangers?" "Only the forgetful ones." He laughed quietly, then looked around. "Nice place. Family business?" "Was," I said. "My dad built it. I'm just trying to keep it alive." He studied me again, that same strange intensity as yesterday. "You remind me of someone I used to know." "Yeah? Hope he was better at making coffee." "He was worse," he said softly, almost to himself. The moment stretched. Something unspoken passed between us. Curiosity, maybe recognition. Then his phone rang, shattering it. He glanced at the screen, expression tightening. "I have to go." "No problem," I said. He paused at the door, hand on the frame. "Thanks again, Liam." I froze. "I never told you my name." He didn't answer, just gave a faint smile and walked out. The rain had stopped. The cafe was quiet again. I stood behind the counter, his words echoing in my head. He knew my name, and somehow I knew this wasn't the last time I'd see Ethan Vale. When I opened the cafe the next morning, I told myself he wouldn't come back. Men like Ethan Vale didn't return to places like this. But the bell above the door proved me wrong. "Morning," he said. His tone was easy, confident. A brown envelope sat tucked under his arm. I forced a smile. "You again?" "Me again," he replied, placing his wallet on the counter like a peace offering. "I came to settle yesterday's kindness. I already told you it's fine." He leaned closer. "You shouldn't give away what you can't afford to lose." "Who says I can't afford it?" I tried to joke, but he didn't laugh. He just watched me for a second, eyes sharp but unreadable. Then he pulled the envelope open and slid a few papers across the counter. "I bought your cafe," I blinked. "You what?" "I bought it." His voice was calm, like he was talking about the weather. I laughed. "You're joking." "I'm not," he said. "Ask them." The door opened again. Two men in dark suits stepped inside, rain dripping from their coats. One carried a briefcase. "What is this?" I asked, the words scraping out of my throat. "Legal documents," the older man said. "Transfer of ownership. As of 9 this morning, the property belongs to Vale Holdings." I stared at Ethan. "You can't just walk in and buy someone's life." "I didn't buy your life," he said quietly. "I bought your debt." The cafe was 3 months behind on rent, and the bank was ready to shut it down. I just intervened. My laugh was bitter. "You think that makes it better?" He looked away. "Maybe not better. Just different." The papers lay between us like broken glass. Clara came out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "What's going on?" I swallowed hard. "Apparently we have a new owner." Her eyes darted to Ethan. "You're kidding." I wish I was. Ethan straightened his coat. "I don't want to change anything. You'll both stay. Liam, you'll manage the place. Clara, you'll run operations. Think of it as a partnership." "Partnership?" I repeated. "You didn't ask." "You just bought it." He nodded slightly. "Sometimes asking takes too long." "Unbelievable," Clara muttered. "Rich men with savior complexes." Ethan gave a small smile. "Maybe, but I don't save people who can't be saved." That line hit harder than I expected. I clenched my fists. "Why this cafe?" "Out of all the ones in London." He met my eyes. "Because this one matters." I waited for him to explain. He didn't. He just gathered his papers and turned toward the door. "Wait," I said. "You expect me to just accept this?" "No," he said. "I expect you to run it better." He left before I could answer. Clara stared after him. "That man's trouble." "I know," I said, "but I can't figure out what kind." She crossed her arms. "Then figure it out fast, because whatever game he's playing, we're the pieces." By noon, the cafe was full again. Not with customers, but strangers. Men in suits measured walls, whispered about renovations. I stood behind the counter, pretending not to care. That's when she walked in, a woman in a cream coat, black heels clicking softly on the tiles. Her hair was sleek, her smile practiced. "Liam Hart?" she asked. "Yes." "I'm Harper Vale," she said. "Ethan's sister." Of course she was. They shared that same piercing calm, the kind that made you feel exposed. "I wanted to introduce myself," she continued. "My brother speaks highly of you." "Really?" "He didn't seem the type to talk much." She smiled faintly. "He isn't, but he notices things, especially people who stand their ground." "I didn't stand," I said. "He bought the floor I was standing on." That earned a quiet laugh. "You don't like him much, do you?" "I don't know him. Maybe that's the problem." Before I could respond, Ethan appeared behind her, phone in hand. "Harper," he said. "You shouldn't be here." "I was curious," she said. "You spoke about him." He shot her a look that said, "Stop." Then he turned to me. "Everything running smoothly?" "Define smoothly." "Good answer," he murmured. Then his phone buzzed again. He stepped aside to answer, lowering his voice, but not enough. "He doesn't remember me," Ethan said into the phone. "That's good." "It's better this way." My stomach tightened. He turned back, expression calm, but I knew what I'd heard. Everything all right? I asked. He nodded. Just business. Harper gave me a soft, unreadable look before following him out. When they were gone, Clara leaned in. What did he say? Nothing that made sense. But as I locked up that night, his words kept replaying in my head. He doesn't remember me. Remember him? From where? I stared at the reflection in the cafe window. The man I'd become. Tired and angry and confused. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe Ethan Vale hadn't just bought my cafe. Maybe he'd bought his way back into my past. The week crawled by, full of short tempers and silent wars. Ethan took over everything, ordering new menus, repainting walls, moving furniture like he owned the air itself. Maybe he did. You don't need to change everything, I told him on Wednesday morning. He didn't even look up. Progress needs movement. This place survived without your progress. He gave a small, amused smirk. Barely. Clara rolled her eyes behind him. Children, please. Some of us are trying to make coffee. Ethan ignored her and walked toward the back room. You're afraid of change, Liam. I'm afraid of people who think they can fix lives with money. He paused, turned halfway, and said softly, Not everything I want to fix can be bought. The words hit like a whisper of something familiar. I wanted to ask what he meant, but he was already gone. By Friday, a storm rolled over London. Thunder cracked against the windows. Most customers stayed home, and by closing time, it was just me, Clara, and Ethan. Clara grabbed her coat. I'm heading out before we drown. Go, I said. I'll lock up. She glanced at Ethan. Try not to murder each other. Not tonight, Ethan said. His tone almost sounded tired. When she left, the cafe went quiet. Only rain filled the silence, steady and cold. The lights flickered once, twice. Then everything went dark. Great, I muttered. Power's out. I'll check the fuse, Ethan said, stepping toward the back. Don't bother, I said. It's the whole block. I found a candle in the drawer and lit it. The flame painted the walls golden shadow. Ethan returned, his face half lit, half lost. You keep candles here? He asked. Old habit, I said. Dad used to say power cuts were nature's way of forcing people to talk. Ethan smiled faintly. Smart man. We sat opposite each other, the candle between us. I didn't plan to talk, but silence has a way of dragging words out. So, I said, what's your story, Vale? You buy dine cafes for fun? He chuckled under his breath. Hardly. I used to think owning things made me feel alive. Turns out they just fill the quiet. That's deep, I said dryly. He leaned back. I lost someone once, a friend. He saved me, and I never got the chance to repay him. The way he said it, low, cracked, made my stomach twist. What happened? He stared into the candle. He died, young. His father died too, fire. The air went still. My throat went dry. A fire? He nodded. I never forgot it. You don't forget people like that. I looked at him, at the shadows trembling across his face. Something in his eyes, sorrow, guilt, felt too personal. You talk like it still burns you. Some fires never go out, he whispered. We sat in silence after that, the rain beating harder. When the lights came back on, he stood up quickly, brushing off the moment. I should go. Ethan, he was already at the door. Lock up. Don't stay too late. The bell chimed behind him, leaving the echo of words I didn't understand. I started cleaning up, but my mind was somewhere else, on his tone, his story, the way he'd looked when he said fire. I bent to pick up a dropped cloth and saw something glint near the chair he'd sat on. A photograph half crumpled, its edges worn. I picked it up, wiping dust away. 2 boys in school uniforms, smiling like the world was theirs. One of them was Ethan, the other was me. My heart stopped. I stared at the photo. My own younger face staring back at me, the same crooked grin, the same scar on my chin from falling off my bike. But I didn't remember him. Not the place, not the moment, nothing. The door opened suddenly, wind rushing in. Still here, kid? I turned. Detective Rowan Miles stood in the doorway, trench coat soaked, gray hair plastered to his forehead. He was an old friend of my father's, one of the few who still checked on me from time to time. Rowan, I said, quickly sliding the photo behind the counter. You shouldn't be out in this weather. Could say the same for you, he said, taking off his coat. Heard your cafe's got a new owner. Vale, isn't it? My stomach tightened. Yeah, he nodded slowly. Interesting man, that one. I ran into him once years back. His family's company, Vale Holdings, used to work with the city council. Messy business. What kind of messy? The kind your old man hated, he said. He told me once he didn't trust their ethics. I thought he was exaggerating. Now I'm not so sure. I tried to sound casual. You think Ethan's involved in something? Rowan shrugged. Let's just say I'd keep an eye on him. Men who look too calm usually have something to hide. He put his hat back on and nodded toward the counter. You okay, Liam? You look pale. I'm fine, I lied. He left a minute later and I locked the door again. The cafe felt colder now, heavier. I pulled the photograph back out. My fingers trembled. Ethan Vale, the man who bought my cafe, the man who said I didn't remember him, had been standing beside me years ago. I stared at the picture until the candle burned out. And for the first time in years, I felt the ghost of smoke in my lungs. The air in the cafe felt heavier that evening, too still, too quiet. I'd barely slept since the storm. That photograph had burned through my thoughts all week. When Ethan walked in, I didn't even look up. You forget something? I came to talk, he said, voice low. About what? I asked. Business? Or whatever game you're playing? He hesitated. Neither. I finally met his eyes. They were softer, almost frightened. Then what? He exhaled. The truth. That word, truth, hit harder than thunder. I'm listening. He sat down at the nearest table, fingers tracing the wood grain like it might hold courage. Years ago, he began, there was a fire at a housing site. Vale Holdings was managing it. My father, he cut corners. Safety checks, wiring, he thought he could save money. I froze. Stop! Liam, don't, I said. My chest tightened. You're saying, I was there, he whispered. A kid, I saw the smoke. I didn't understand what was happening until I saw your father running into the flames. My throat went dry. He died in that fire. I know. Because of your father's company. He nodded slowly. Yes. Silence swallowed the space between us. And you, I said, barely breathing, you bought my cafe to what? Feel better? I bought it because I couldn't live with what my family did. Because I saw your name on the deed and what? I cut in. You thought you could buy forgiveness? He didn't speak. His jaw tensed, eyes glistening. Say it, I said. He finally whispered. Yes. The word cracked something inside me. I slammed my hand on the table. You think guilt pays for death? For a lifetime without him? I didn't know how else to fix it. You can't fix this, I shouted. You can't just throw money at ghosts and call it redemption. He looked down, trembling. I've spent every day wishing I could change it. Then you should have started by telling the truth. I was scared. So was he, I said. But he ran into that fire anyway. You hid behind your father's name. Ethan's voice cracked. I was 10, Liam. I took a step back, shaking. And now you're grown, old enough to tell me the truth, but too late for it to matter. He didn't move. Just stood there, eyes full of regret, hands clenched at his sides. I never wanted to hurt you. Well, congratulations, I said. You did. I turned away, the room spinning. The sound of my heartbeat drowned everything else. Please, he said behind me. Let me make this right. You can't, I whispered. The door slammed as he left. I sank onto the floor, breath ragged, eyes burning. I didn't even realize Clara was there until she crouched beside me, her hand brushing my shoulder. What happened? She asked. He told me, I said, choking on the words. His family, the fire. My dad. Clara's face softened. Oh, Liam. I want to destroy him, I said. I want him to feel what I felt. She squeezed my hand. Revenge won't bring him back. I don't care, I said. It's not about bringing him back. It's about truth. Her voice was calm but firm. And what will that truth give you? Peace or another wound? I didn't answer. I couldn't. She stood and looked around the dark cafe. You should go home, sleep. But I didn't. I stayed until dawn, staring at the coffee machine, the empty tables, the memories that refused to fade. By morning, I called Rowan. He arrived 2 hours later, trench coat still damp from the rain. You look like hell, he said. Thanks, I muttered. I need your help. With what? Ethan's father, the fire. I want proof. Rowan's brows furrowed. You sure you want to dig that deep? I have to, I said. If there's even one chance the truth was buried, I need to see it. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. All right, let's dig. We spent days going through old records, newspaper archives, forgotten files in city storage. Rowan called in favors, whispered to old contacts, and one night he showed up at the cafe with a brown envelope. "Found something," he said. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter. Official stationery, Vale Holdings stamped in blue, Project Redstone, Site Naruna 17 Fire Response. At the bottom, a signature. Thomas Vale, and beneath it, words that turned my stomach to stone. All records of safety violations must be destroyed immediately. Ensure all insurance claims reference electrical failure only. I couldn't breathe. My father's death, every sleepless night, wasn't an accident. I stared at the paper, rage burning through me. "Jesus," Rowan muttered. He covered it up. I didn't hear him. I was already standing. He knew. Liam, Ethan knew. I stormed toward the office door, the letter crumpled in my fist. Ethan was standing there. He looked exhausted, eyes dark, like he hadn't slept either. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Yeah," I said. "We do." I tossed the letter on the counter between us. The paper slid to a stop, the signature clear as blood, his face drained of color. "Where did you get that?" "Your father's files," I said. "Rowan found them." "You knew, didn't you?" His lips parted, but no sound came out. "You knew," I repeated, louder. "You stood there pretending to make peace when you've been lying this whole time." He took a step forward. "I didn't lie." "I just didn't what?" I snapped. "Didn't tell me the part where your family murdered mine and paid to hide it?" He looked like he might break. "I wanted to tell you everything, I swear. But I thought, you thought you could control the story. I thought you'd hate me," he said. "I already do." Silence fell between us, thick and final. Ethan lowered his head. "Then there's nothing left to say." I didn't stop him this time. He walked out the door, rain swallowing him whole. And I stood there, the letter trembling in my hand, realizing the truth wasn't closure. It was a wound that would never stop bleeding. When Ethan showed up again, he looked like a ghost in a tailored coat, thinner, quieter, eyes hollow. "I need to talk," he said. I didn't move from behind the counter. "You've said enough," he shook his head. "Not this. I'm going to confess. Publicly." My hand froze around the coffee pot. "What?" "I'm holding a press conference tomorrow. I'll tell everything, the fire, the cover-up, my part in hiding it. And then what? You think a few headlines make up for a life?" "No," he said softly. "But it's the only truth left to tell." I leaned against the counter, heart pounding. "If you do this, you lose everything." "I already did," he whispered. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Rain pressed against the windows again, always rain when he showed up. "Why tell me?" I asked. "Because you deserve to choose," he said. "If you tell me to stay quiet, I will. If you want me gone, I'll disappear." I met his eyes, the same eyes that once hid 1,000 lies. "I don't want silence anymore," I said. "So go ahead, tell them, redeem yourself, or ruin yourself." He nodded once. "Then that's what I'll do." I watched him leave, his reflection fading in the glass door like a memory dissolving. The next morning, the whole city froze. Reporters filled the square outside Vale Tower. I stood across the street, coffee in hand, hood pulled low. Ethan stepped up to the microphone, cameras flashing. "My name is Ethan Vale," he began. His voice trembled, but he didn't flinch. "For years, my family's company hid the truth about a fire that took innocent lives. One of them was Liam Hart's father, a man who saved others while we destroyed everything." A murmur ran through the crowd. Ethan continued, "I was a child then, but I grew into the same cowardice my father taught me. Today, I choose to end that." He placed a folder of documents on the podium. "Every file, every signature, it's all here. I take full responsibility. I resign from Vale Holdings, effective immediately." The crowd erupted in questions. He didn't answer a single one. When he stepped down, our eyes met across the street. Just for a second. He smiled, not for forgiveness, but for freedom. Then he vanished into the rain. Weeks passed. Reporters left. The cafe quieted again. Life returned to its small, familiar rhythm. Bitter coffee, quiet mornings, soft music. Clara wiped tables near the window. "You think he'll come back?" "I don't know," I said. "Maybe he already did." She gave me a look. "You miss him." "Maybe," I admitted. "Or maybe I just miss believing people can change." That night, as I closed up, I noticed something tucked beneath the counter. A cream envelope. My name written in neat, careful handwriting. Ethan's. My fingers trembled as I opened it, for the man who taught me what forgiveness feels like. Inside was a folded deed, the cafe's ownership, transferred back to me. I stared at it for a long time. The paper felt heavier than it should have, like a heartbeat I couldn't return. Clara found me still standing there. "What's that?" "The end," I said. She smiled faintly. "Or maybe the beginning." The next morning, sunlight finally cut through the clouds. For once the air smelled like peace instead of rain. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, the sound of it steady and calm. I didn't know if forgiveness meant forgetting. Maybe it didn't, but as the steam rose in the golden light, I felt something I hadn't in years. Air filling my lungs, the weight lifting. Somewhere in the city, maybe he was watching. Maybe not. Either way, I finally breathed freely. And for the first time since the fire, that was enough.